Good morning. So nice to begin the morning with you today after a rather turbulent night overnight. We're happy to have one of our very dear friends to kick the show off with us, though. His name is Kevin Fuerst. Perhaps you've been seeing him on the show regularly with Fuerst Financial Group. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Julie.
And nice to be here with power, right?
Absolutely.
You had no power at your house when you woke up.
Well, we actually have a generator, so
Oh.
I cheated.
Okay, I did not know he was going to say that, but how fitting is that? He's the man always prepared.
Somewhat, yeah.
And that's what you do for a living. You help
Right.
other people be prepared.
That's right. Exactly.
We've had lots of conversations about finances and kind of your philosophical approach to it. That matters, I think.
Yeah.
When you're putting your money in the hands of somebody else. But your real belief is that A, your money can work for you.
Yep.
But you have to live within your means.
Correct.
And you have to have a plan.
You gotta.
Part of that plan leads us into a workshop that you're having in early March 9th, I think. And it's something that very few of us really want to talk about, but that's what happens to our money when we are no longer here.
Right.
So you're doing something on wills versus trusts.
Yeah, death and dying.
Not
It's
a fun
exciting,
topic.
isn't it?
Yes.
It's great. Way to start off the morning.
Well, I know, but it's important.
Yeah, it is. And so if you don't have, really the principle applies to anything in life though, doesn't it? If you don't prepare for something, whether it's electricity, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your finances, whether it's your physical body, you have to watch a thing to change a thing. I've said that before. If I'm not paying attention to my marriage and doing the things that necessary I need to do, then what happens to the marriage?
Right.
If I'm not paying attention to any of the other things we want to talk about, whether it's finance or whether it's estate planning, which is what the workshop's going to be about, then what happens if something comes about? Not just death either. Sometimes it's disability, incapacitation. Anything can happen that you have to be prepared for it in order to make sure that you prepare for the worst and hope for the best, so to speak.
Do you think what happens to a lot of us, though, is that we hear the words estate planning and tend to think, well, I don't have an estate, so what does that really do for me? But we all have an estate.
Everybody has an estate, even as simple as having your beneficiaries right. I can't tell you how many people don't have the right beneficiaries on their life insurance, their 401ks are almost, they're probably the worst as far as beneficiaries being right, simply because a lot of times someone will change their 401k, meaning that they don't change it. Well, they could change jobs. Typically when you enroll in with your new employer, you get the beneficiary right. What happens if you change from Fidelity to Vanguard inside the 401k? Because a lot of those are called custodians. So when your custodian is changed, you have to physically make an effort to change that beneficiary. If you don't, there may not be one on it, may be the wrong person. We had a couple come in one time. We were helping them settle their mom's estate. The mom lived in Delaware at the time. Not at the time, but she lived in Delaware, was married, moved down here, got remarried, had kids. Those were the kids I was talking to. And she had been with the same company. She never changed company, so she moved down here to a company that's located here as well as in Delaware. She passed away. Her ex-husband was the beneficiary on her 401k.
And there was nothing that could be done.
Well, they went to court, but they lost because the judge said she had plenty of opportunity to change it. She never changed it, and the ex-husband did get the proceeds.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not just wow, it was like $400,000. Wow.
And he kept that money?
Of course.
But those were his kids.
Those were not his kids.
Oh, the plot thickens.
So she divorced early in her
see.
first marriage, came down, remarried.
Still. Okay, we won't get
That's
into...
that's ethics, but that's how powerful beneficiaries are. So we're talking about estate planning. People think it's like all these documents you have to put together. Sure, there are documents, powers of attorney, living wills, the trust, or just a will itself. But there's also simple things like beneficiaries can be wrong.
Okay, so I know on March 9th, this workshop is free, I think,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is, yeah.
And you'll have an attorney there.
Yep, the
People
attorney
can
will.
ask questions. He'll present some information to you, but then it's your Q&A time.
Yep.
But when you talk about a trust, we hear that kind of thrown around a lot these days. Once upon a time, very few people knew or had a trust.
Correct.
Is that, again, something that can be set up rather easily, and what's the benefit of one?
Okay, so nothing's easy, but I think the point is the trust does what everybody thought a will would do. When my grandfather passed away, I thought you just take the death certificate, you take ID to the bank, and the bank's going to give you the money, and you're done, you go on your way. That's not what happens. You have to get an attorney, you have to go through probate court. It takes, in Tennessee, minimum of 4 months, and sometimes longer, depending on the court, depending on what the caseload of the attorney is. And so there's a lot of things that have to be considered in probate court. It's not just like McDonald's, like I thought. You could just
Right.
go in,
Have it your way?
have it my way, and they were going to give us the money because we weren't going to do anything wrong necessarily, I guess, but they didn't think that, and so you have to prove and go through the process to go through probate court. That's the will. And so the trust is different. The trust eliminates probate court.
Okay.
If you've done all the things you need to do on the trust.
We barely scratched the surface with our time this morning, and I would hold him hostage all day if I could, because like you, I have so many questions, and it's far more involved and personalized
It is.
than we give ourselves reason to believe. So they're going to come to your office, right?
To our office.
Two different times, one at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
One at 6.
That's right, March 9th.
They do ask you though to sign up because they
Yes.
want to know how many people to expect. So
Correct.
their website is growkeepleave.com. If you want to call and get a real person on the phone, you can do that too.
Yep.
It's 899-8555, and you're doing these monthly,
Correct.
right?
That's right.
The month of March is on estate planning. I might see you there.
All right.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thanks, Julie.